You know, when you hear the word karma, most of us immediately think of some kind of inescapable fate, right? A cosmic scorecard keeping track of all our past wrongs. But what if that's not the whole picture? What if karma isn't a sentence you have to serve, but a system you can actually learn to use? Today, we're going to flip that script and see karma not as something you just endure, but as something you can actively navigate.
So, let me ask you something. Do you ever feel kind of trapped by your past? Like you're stuck on a hamster wheel, repeating the same patterns, or living out a story that someone else wrote for you? It's a really common feeling, this sense that who we are today is just the inevitable result of everything that's already happened.
This is what you might call the deterministic view of karma. The idea that we're basically just automatic machines, just playing out the consequences of things we've done before. And honestly, it can make you feel pretty powerless, as if free will is just, well, an illusion.
But that's not the whole story. Not even close. This is the core idea we're going to unpack today. Karma isn't some fixed sentence that's been handed down from your past. Instead, you need to think of it as a dynamic, living, breathing system, a variable in your life's equation that you, yes you, actually have the power to reprogram.
Okay, so here's the game plan. We'll kick things off by digging into that feeling of being trapped. Then we're going to explore 4 incredible tools to help you take the wheel. We're talking about rewiring your brain, steering your own genes, choosing your quantum path, and mastering something called a strategic pause. And finally, we'll see how this all ties together and shows you how you are the one at the helm.
All right, let's dive into the problem first. You see, the old-school view of karma often paints this picture of an unbreakable chain. You do something, and a specific result is locked in. It's inevitable. This perspective kind of locks us into a destiny, where our present and our future are just echoes of the past. But what's so exciting is that science is now showing us that the links in that chain, well, they aren't nearly as rigid as we thought.
So, our very first tool for taking control comes straight from the world of neuroscience. Think about it. If our habits, our knee-jerk reactions, our personal karma really, are hardwired into our brains, then changing that karma means we gotta change the wiring itself. This is the incredible power of neuroplasticity.
So what exactly is neuroplasticity? Well, it's this mind-blowing, scientifically proven fact that your brain can literally reorganize itself based on your experiences. It's not just about learning new things. It's about physically remodeling the very pathways that create your automatic thoughts and reactions. It's like being your own brain's electrician.
Okay, so you can really break this down into 2 different brain processes. On one hand, you have the automatic karmic reaction. That's a bottom-up process driven by our primal reactive brain, and all it does is strengthen those old, worn-out pathways. But on the other hand, you have conscious intervention. That's top-down control. It uses your rational brain to hit the pause button, to reflect, and to choose a totally new response, literally carving out a new path in your brain.
And look, this isn't just some feel-good theory. We've got the receipts. Get this. A major study by Sarah Lazar and her team at Harvard discovered that practices like mindfulness meditation can physically shrink the part of the brain responsible for fight-or-flight reactions. It can also bulk up the areas tied to self-awareness. So what does that mean? It means you can use your mind to physically change the hardware where your karma is stored. How cool is that?
Okay, so we can rewire our brains. That's huge. But what about the stuff we're born with? Our genetic code. This brings us to our second tool, the absolutely fascinating field of epigenetics, which shows us we have way more influence here than we ever imagined.
This is a total game changer. Epigenetics tells us that while your DNA, your basic blueprint, is set, how those genes get expressed is not. Think of your DNA like a giant library full of instruction manuals, while epigenetics is the study of the sticky notes and highlights that tell your body which instructions to read and which ones to ignore.
And here's the punchline. You are the one writing those sticky notes. Your choices, every single day. The thoughts you think, the food you eat, how you handle stress, they all act like little switches that are constantly turning your genes on or off. So you're not just a passenger on your own biological bus, you can actually get in the driver's seat.
All right, so we've covered the brain, we've covered our genes. Now we're going to take a bit of a leap and look at our third tool, which is a powerful metaphor from the super weird world of quantum physics. It's all about how our consciousness might just play a role in shaping the reality we experience.
You've probably heard of this. It's the famous observer effect. Basically, at the tiniest level, a particle doesn't really have a fixed spot. It's more like a cloud of maybes, of all the places it could be. It's only the act of looking at it, of observing it, that makes it pick a spot and become real.
Okay, so what on earth does this have to do with karma? Well, here's a really cool way to think about it. Imagine your future isn't one straight road, but a whole field of possible paths, a sea of karmic possibilities. In this picture, your focused attention, your intention, acts like that quantum observer. By choosing where to put your energy, you help collapse that wave of potential into the one single reality you actually live.
All right, our fourth and final tool is where the rubber really meets the road. It brings all these ideas together into something you can actually do. It comes from Buddhist logic, and it's all about using the most crucial element of all, time. It's about finding that gap between a cause and its effect.
There's this amazing Buddhist concept called Sanji-gyo, and it's brilliant. It basically says that between any action and its eventual result, there's always a time gap, a delay. Now, this delay isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. And that gap, that's your golden opportunity. It's the strategic pause where you can jump in and change things. So let's walk through how this actually works. Step 1. A past action plants what you could call a karmic seed. Step 2. You recognize that there's a time gap, a strategic window, before that seed has a chance to sprout. Step 3. This is where you intervene. You consciously flood that negative seed with positive actions and energy. Things like forgiveness, kindness, you name it. It's almost like a chemical reaction, right? You're neutralizing the negative. The result? That negative outcome is watered down, maybe even transformed into something else entirely.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together now. What we've seen is that karma isn't a prison. We're moving away from that old idea of being on autopilot, of being a victim of fate, and stepping into something way more empowering, a subjective journey where you are holding the controls.
You see, just understanding karma as a system is one thing. That's the first step, and it's important. But the real power, the whole point of this, is realizing that you can actually take control of that system. You can go from being a passenger just along for the ride to being the active navigator of your life.
So think of these 4 things as your personal navigation kit. You've got neuroplasticity to physically rewire your brain. You've got epigenetics to control which parts of your genetic code get expressed. You've got the principle of quantum choice to focus your consciousness and help select your reality. And you've got the strategic pause, a practical method to jump into the causal chain and change the outcome.
So, I want to leave you with this one final thought. Your past isn't an anchor that holds you down in one spot. Think of it as a rudder, something you can use to guide your ship. With the tools we've just talked about, you are the navigator. So the only real question is, where are you going to steer next?